Did Andre's passing affect you more than other passings that you've experienced?
More than one?
More than other passings that you've
Oh, God.
Did Andre's passing affect you more than other passings that you've experienced? More than one, more than other passing that you... Oh God, he was special. For over 3 decades, wrestling fans have wondered about the truth behind the strained relationship between WWE Chairman Vince McMahon and the legendary Andre the Giant during the Icon's final days. While rumors have swirled about their falling out, McMahon has largely remained silent about the details surrounding his once close friend's final chapter. What truly happened between these two titans of the wrestling world, and why has McMahon, a man known for his steely resolve and unwavering control, struggled to discuss the painful memories of losing Andre? Now, after years of speculation, Vince McMahon finally breaks silence on the heartbreaking final days before Andre the Giant died, revealing intimate details about their relationship that shed new light on one of wrestling's most complex friendships. Join us as we discover the deep regret that has haunted McMahon for decades. The McMahon-Andre bond. The world of professional wrestling is ever-changing, with shifting alliances and evolving storylines. But for years, the friendship between Vince McMahon and Andre the Giant stood firm, until it fell apart. While McMahon built his empire on the backs of countless superstars, none held the special place in his heart that Andre did, as multiple sources close to the WWE chairman have confirmed. If Vince McMahon had an absolute favorite wrestler of all time, it was unquestionably Andre Rousnoff, the 8th wonder of the world. Vince McMahon always had his favorites. Shawn Michaels was his favorite in the 1990s. In the 2000s, The Undertaker became a close friend. But Andre transcended these relationships, representing not just a business asset but a deeply personal connection that spanned generations of the McMahon family. This wasn't merely a relationship between an employer and his star attraction. It was a family affair. Stephanie McMahon, Vince's daughter, once revealed in interviews that she grew up with Andre and regarded him as one of her best friends. "I grew up with Andre the Giant as my best friend, which wasn't unusual for me." This bond between Andre and young Stephanie further cemented the Giant's place in the McMahon inner circle, creating a complex web of personal and professional connections that went far beyond the squared circle. The relationship had roots reaching back to Vince McMahon Sr., who first recognized Andre's star potential and pushed him as a top attraction. When Vince Jr. took over the company, he continued his father's tradition of treating Andre like wrestling royalty. During the wrestling boom of the 1980s, while Hulk Hogan was undoubtedly WWE's biggest draw, Andre remained Vince's favorite employee and genuine friend. Behind the scenes, Andre and Vince shared countless road trips, late nights, and private moments that strengthened their connection. Former WWE executive Bruce Pritchard revealed that Vince and Andre were the same age and had birthdays that were fairly close together. This wasn't just business. It was a brotherhood forged through the unique pressures of the wrestling industry. Their professional collaboration reached its zenith at WrestleMania 3 in 1987, when Andre faced Hulk Hogan in what became one of wrestling's most iconic matches. The spectacle drew what WWE claimed was a record 93,173 fans to the Pontiac Silverdome. Though Andre would lose the match, the event cemented his legacy and highlighted the trust McMahon placed in him to deliver at the company's most crucial moment. Wrestlers who worked with both men during this period often speak of the special treatment Andre received from McMahon. When Andre entered a room, the atmosphere changed. Even the notoriously hard-nosed Vince McMahon showed a softer side reserved exclusively for the gentle giant. According to several accounts, Andre was one of the few people who could change McMahon's mind about creative decisions, a privilege virtually unheard of in the tightly controlled WWE hierarchy. What made the relationship truly special was their mutual respect. Andre, despite his immense drawing power and options to work elsewhere, showed loyalty to the McMahons. Vince, in turn, ensured Andre was treated with dignity despite the logistical challenges his size presented. Custom transportation, specially reinforced rings, and careful booking decisions all demonstrated McMahon's dedication to accommodating his prized performer and friend. Few fans realize the extent to which Vince protected Andre behind the scenes, shielding him from the pressures of fame while maximizing his mystique. Unlike today's wrestling world of constant social media exposure, Andre's rare appearances were carefully orchestrated by McMahon to maintain the Giant's larger-than-life aura, preserving both his drawing power and his personal dignity. As his health declined, this deep bond makes what happened in their final years all the more heartbreaking, a tragic unraveling that would haunt Vince McMahon for decades to come. Signs of trouble. The cracks in the once unshakable relationship between Vince McMahon and Andre the Giant didn't appear overnight. Like the progressive disease that plagued Andre throughout his adult life, the deterioration happened gradually, almost imperceptibly at first, before becoming impossible to ignore. By the late 1980s, Andre's acromegaly, the condition that had given him his enormous size, was taking an increasingly devastating toll on his body. The disease, which causes the pituitary gland to produce excessive growth hormone, had transformed Andre from the nimble athlete of his youth into a man in constant agony. Former wrestlers recall seeing Andre struggle to move backstage, grimacing with each step despite his stoic attempts to hide the pain. He kept on growing, wrestling promoter Paul, the Butcher Vachon observed, and that's what killed him. His joints weakened under his massive frame, his back required a brace hidden beneath his singlet, and the simple act of walking became an ordeal. Those close to both men reveal that McMahon noticed these changes with growing concern, even as Andre pushed himself to continue performing. The physical deterioration inevitably affected Andre's temperament. Once known for his warmth and generosity, particularly toward friends like Vince McMahon, Andre became increasingly irritable and withdrawn. Long-time WWE employees witnessed the Giant's mood swings, which many attributed to his worsening physical condition and the alcohol he consumed to dull the constant pain. "Back when you were his friend, he would go above and beyond for you," recalled former wrestler Leo Burke. However, that cheerful disposition started to diminish as Andre's pain grew worse. For McMahon, witnessing his friend's decline was devastating, particularly as the demands of the business forced Andre to stick to his grueling schedule of appearances. This tension between Andre's health needs and WWE's business requirements became a growing source of friction. Under Vince McMahon Sr.'s leadership, Andre had enjoyed considerable freedom and flexibility in his schedule, often taking time off between appearances. When Vince Jr. took control, however, he implemented a more demanding touring schedule that required Andre to appear more frequently and restricted his ability to travel globally as he once had. Former WWE staff recall hushed conversations between Vince and Andre regarding scheduling, with the Giant increasingly resistant to the grueling travel demands that exacerbated his physical discomfort. Though these disagreements were initially resolved amicably, they represented the first real tensions in their relationship, warning signs of the more significant conflict to come. As Andre's mobility continued to decline, McMahon faced a difficult dilemma. The WWE chairman found himself torn between his business instincts, which recognized Andre's enduring value as an attraction, and his personal concern for his friend's well-being. According to those close to McMahon, he began suggesting modified roles that would minimize Andre's physical exertion while keeping him in the spotlight. These well-intentioned proposals, however, weren't always well received. Andre had built his identity around being the undefeatable Giant, and any perceived diminishment of his role struck at the heart of his pride. Bruce Pritchard noted that conversations about Andre's future became increasingly tense, with the Giant resistant to any implication that he couldn't continue as he always had. Communication between the two grew strained. Where they once spent hours together discussing business and personal matters, their interactions became more formal and less frequent. Wrestlers from that era recall Andre isolating himself more often, retreating to his private dressing room rather than socializing with McMahon and other performers as he once had. By the early 1990s, the signs of trouble were impossible to ignore. Andre's in-ring performances, once spectacular despite his size, became increasingly limited. Matches had to be carefully choreographed around his physical limitations, and his appearances grew shorter. McMahon, ever the perfectionist about WWE's product quality, struggled to balance his friendship with Andre against his vision for the company's future. The evolution of WWE's presentation style compounded these issues. As the company moved toward faster-paced matches featuring more athletic performers, Andre's methodical style and limited mobility seemed increasingly at odds with the product's direction. Though never explicitly stated, those close to both men sensed the growing disconnect between Andre's capabilities and McMahon's creative vision. These accumulating tensions were building toward an inevitable breaking point, one that would permanently alter the relationship between two of wrestling's most iconic figures. The falling out. The pivotal moment that fractured the decades-long friendship between Vince McMahon and Andre the Giant came in the early 1990s, when the painful reality of Andre's physical decline could no longer be ignored or worked around. According to multiple sources with direct knowledge of their relationship, it was McMahon himself who finally broached the subject that had become increasingly difficult to avoid: retirement. In the early 1990s, wrestling journalists covering WWE reported that Andre was clearly past his prime. They noted that although he still performed occasionally, it was evident he was in significant pain. Concerned for his friend's declining health and well-being, McMahon reportedly suggested that Andre should retire and step away from the grueling physical demands of wrestling. The suggestion, however well-intentioned, landed like a betrayal to the proud giant. Despite his physical condition and deteriorating health, Andre still wanted, perhaps even needed, to perform. Sources close to Andre revealed that he interpreted McMahon's suggestion not as concern, but as the WWE chairman determining he was no longer valuable to the company. This caused a big rift between McMahon and Andre. The tension wasn't just about Andre's wrestling future, but struck at the heart of their personal relationship. The disagreement escalated beyond a simple difference of opinion. Words were exchanged that couldn't be taken back. Wrestlers present during this period describe an increasingly frosty atmosphere whenever both men were in the same building. The once inseparable friends now maintained a professional distance, with intermediaries often relaying messages between them. The ultimate break came in 1992 when Andre made the decision to leave WWE entirely. This departure wasn't just a contractual matter, it was a personal statement. After years of loyalty to the McMahon family, Andre chose to exercise his independence in perhaps the only way left available to him, by taking control of his remaining wrestling career. In what many wrestling historians consider the final act of defiance that severed their relationship, Andre appeared in rival promotions. That same year, he worked shows in Japan and Mexico, countries where he had always been warmly received. For fans in those regions, seeing Andre, even in his diminished physical state, remained a special occasion. These appearances allowed him to continue performing on his own terms, away from McMahon's concerned but controlling influence. Then came the moment that truly wounded Vince McMahon. Andre the Giant, the eighth wonder of the WWE, showed up on TBS, the television station of McMahon's sworn nemesis Ted Turner. At Clash of the Champions 20 on September 2, 1992, Andre made what would become his final American television appearance, not for WWE, but for its competitor, World Championship Wrestling, WCW. Though the appearance lasted mere seconds, a brief interview segment during the show's celebration of 20 years of wrestling on TBS, its symbolic impact was enormous. Back in Stamford, Connecticut, Vince McMahon reportedly took the news with deep personal hurt. According to Bruce Pritchard, Vince felt betrayed by Andre. This brief appearance became significant not for its content, but for what it represented: the public dissolution of one of wrestling's most important personal relationships. The appearance was particularly painful for McMahon because it wasn't just about business competition. WCW had recruited numerous former WWE talents over the years, but Andre was different. He wasn't just a former employee. He was family, a trusted friend whose presence on a rival's broadcast felt like a personal rejection. In the aftermath of this appearance, communication between the two men ceased entirely. According to those close to both, no phone calls were exchanged, no attempts at reconciliation made. The proud giant and the equally proud promoter remained at an impasse, each waiting for the other to make the first move toward healing the rift. Prolonged estrangement led to the most painful chapter of their story, one that would leave McMahon with a burden of regret he would carry for decades to come. Andre's final days. The final chapter of Andre the Giant's life played out far from the wrestling rings where he had become a legend. By late 1992, Andre's health had deteriorated significantly. His mobility was severely limited, with close friends noting the increasing difficulty he had performing even basic movements. The giant who once moved with surprising agility for his size now relied heavily on canes to walk, his body betraying him more with each passing day. Despite his physical decline, Andre continued to make sporadic wrestling appearances in Japan, partnering with Giant Bobber in All Japan Pro Wrestling. His last match occurred on December 4, 1992, just 7 weeks before his death, when he teamed with Bobber and Russia Camera to secure a victory. Few realized this unremarkable tag match in a Japanese arena would be the final time Andre the Giant would ever perform. Andre had long maintained connections to his homeland of France, despite spending most of his adult life traveling the world. In January 1993, he received the news that his father had passed away. Despite his own failing health, Andre made the difficult journey across the Atlantic to attend the funeral. According to friends, the trip was physically grueling for him, requiring special travel arrangements to accommodate his size and condition. After the funeral, Andre decided to extend his stay in France to spend time with his mother on her birthday. On January 27, 1993, one day before he died, Andre spent the afternoon doing something remarkably ordinary, playing cards with old friends in France. This simple pleasure, a game of cribbage with companions who saw him as Rousimov rather than as a wrestling attraction, provided Andre with a rare moment of normalcy in a life defined by his extraordinary size. Andre had spent the previous night with friends before returning to his hotel room. He checked into the Hotel Dieu in Paris, planning to rest before continuing his visit with family. That night, Andre went to sleep in his hotel room, unaware it would be his last. The morning of January 28, 1993, Andre the Giant died in his sleep at the age of 46. The official cause was congestive heart failure, a complication of his untreated acromegaly. His chauffeur and hotel management discovered his body in the afternoon when he failed to appear for a scheduled appointment. The giant heart that had powered his extraordinary frame had finally given out, ironically, while he was back in the country of his birth. When news of Andre's death broke, it traveled quickly through the wrestling community. Though in those pre-internet days, information spread more slowly than it would today. WWE was holding a press conference announcing WrestleMania 9 in Las Vegas when the news began filtering through the organization. The moment Vince McMahon received the news remains a pivotal point in his life story. According to Bruce Pritchard, the WWE chairman took the news hard. Despite their estrangement, the bond forged over decades couldn't be erased by recent disagreements. For McMahon, the shock wasn't just that Andre had died. Many had predicted his early demise due to his condition, but that he had died before they had resolved their differences. In that moment, sources close to McMahon reveal, the usually composed WWE chairman showed rare vulnerability. The realization that there would be no reconciliation, no final conversation with his longtime friend, hit him with unexpected force. McMahon reportedly secluded himself briefly upon hearing the news, processing the loss in private before resuming his professional duties. Andre's body was flown back to the United States, accompanied by longtime friend Jackie Bernard. According to Andre's wishes expressed in his will, He was to be cremated within 48 hours of his death. However, logistical challenges related to his size meant that French crematoriums couldn't accommodate him, necessitating his return to America. His ashes, weighing a reported 17 pounds, were scattered at his beloved ranch in Ellaby, North Carolina, the one place where the giant had found peace and normalcy in his extraordinary life. Hulk Hogan delivered Andre's eulogy at the service on the ranch. The stateside funeral was attended by numerous wrestling luminaries, including Macho Man Randy Savage, Mae Young, and Vince McMahon himself. Despite their unresolved differences, McMahon made the journey to pay his last respects to the man who had been instrumental in WWE's rise to prominence. As the wrestling world mourned the loss of one of its most iconic figures, Vince McMahon was left to grapple with a complicated mix of grief and regret, emotions that would haunt him for decades to come and eventually lead him to finally break his silence about the final days before Andre the Giant died. Breaking the silence. For nearly 25 years, Vince McMahon maintained a public silence about the painful end of his relationship with Andre the Giant. The WWE chairman, who built an empire by controlling narratives, seemed unable or unwilling to address this particular story. Then in 2018, the first significant crack in that facade appeared with the release of HBO's documentary, simply titled Andre the Giant. The documentary represented a turning point in McMahon's willingness to discuss his complicated feelings about Andre. For the first time on camera, viewers witnessed something few had ever seen: the emotional vulnerability of Vince McMahon. As he reflected on his relationship with Andre, the usually stoic WWE chairman's eyes welled with tears. "I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm hardly a sympathetic individual. At the time, we didn't think of not continuing. Here's what happened." A stunning display of emotion from a man notorious for his steely composure. This momentary glimpse into McMahon's emotional state revealed the depth of feeling he had carried silently for years. Still, the documentary only scratched the surface of their complex relationship, with McMahon providing emotional but limited commentary on their friendship and its dissolution. The full story of their falling out and McMahon's subsequent regret remained largely untold. In interviews promoting the documentary, McMahon briefly acknowledged the pain of losing Andre without reconciliation, but quickly returned to discussing the Giant's professional achievements and contributions to wrestling. This pattern, emotional vulnerability quickly followed by a retreat to safer professional territory, characterized his rare public comments about Andre for years. Then came a series of more revealing moments. In 2022, McMahon sent out a social media post on what would have been Andre's birthday, hailing his departed friend as a once-in-a-lifetime athlete. While seemingly routine, those who had followed McMahon's career recognized the significance of this public acknowledgement of their friendship, using language that emphasized personal connection over professional relationship. The most significant breakthrough came with the release of Netflix's documentary series Mr. McMahon in 2024.